Tropes podcast, where books and friendships collide. I'm Becca.
And I'm Keri, and we're two friends who love to talk about books. And today we are talking about chapters 51 through 60 of Powerless by Lauren Roberts, who I have words for. And we have a lot to talk about today.
Yes, so please make sure to check our show notes for any trigger warnings.
And we will be spoiling up to chapter 60. So if you haven't read it, come back later.
If you don't know why we need tissues today,
oh yeah,
come back later.
If you haven't cried yet, then come back later.
I have my tissues right here.
Good.
Just in case. I needed them when I was writing the outline. So
dang.
Okay, so now it's time for our one-sentence summaries for chapters 51 through 60 of Powerless. Chapter 51, Paedyn is spinning, experiencing Anastasia quartet at the ballet dance with Jax, Kit, a random dude, and Kai, all while trying to avoid Kai and narrowly escaping.
Chapter 52, Kai and Paedyn get some fresh air outside of the ball where Kai tells Paedyn how he feels about her, and they almost share their first kiss.
Chapter 53, an Imperial ruins the moment that we have all been waiting for a not-so-urgent meeting with the king, who is the human embodiment of period cramps, and we all want Kai to hit him upside the head.
You're on fire.
Oh, okay. I have more. Just you wait.
Oh my goodness. I'm impressed. Sorry.
Can I just tell you, last night I could not think of any good insults, so I literally Googled insulting names to call people because I had so many of them that I needed to diversify my insulting language.
I love that. Okay, chapter 54. The third trial is a maze with many twists, and in order to win, the contestants will have to kill a prisoner once they make it to the center of the maze.
Chapter 55. Paedyn is running her little heart out in the maze that is the last trial and ends up getting her foot caught in the plants before coming face to face with our favorite oxygen waster, Blair.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm very enjoying these.
Good.
I'm enjoying these very much. Words are hard. Anyways, chapter 56. Kai meets Andy, who is a jaguar, and they have an intense fight where Kai wins and is also able to grab onto the Bloom's power to help him get through the maze.
Chapter 57. Paedyn again uses her wit to fight Blair when she provokes her over not being able to get either prince and knocks Blair out before finding a path to the center circle.
Chapter 58. Kai loses the Bloom ability just as he makes it to the center of the maze, where he sees a limping Paedyn who is sprinting towards the criminal who is supposed to die.
Chapter 59. Let's get all the tissues as we grieve with Paedyn over Adina, who was killed by weapons-grade meanie Blair.
We really
I think that's Blair. My last one.
Chapter 60. As Paedyn's cries fill the bowl, the resistance shows up, and the Fatals are crushing the King, Queen, Kit, and Kai's powers.
Yep.
Then a lot happen, and I cannot wait to read and finish the rest of the book.
For our readers for our listeners who are reading along with us, my deepest apologies for leaving you on a cliffhanger. Also, my deepest apologies to you, Keri, for leaving us on such a huge cliffhanger.
It's okay. I know it's part of the 10 chapter bunches we've been doing. So I do have words for Lauren Roberts, as I said earlier, and many times to you the other night. But
okay.
We will not
all
say
caps words.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as spoiler for Fourth Wing, like Liam dying, but it definitely was up there.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it was, for me, it definitely wasn't as bad for me, but I had to write about it today, and I think that made it almost a little worse.
Yep. I believe it. Well, we're going to skip over our meet cutes because we didn't meet anyone new, but the only thing we're meeting today is my sadness, so
yeah,
we can move on to our quotables right away, which is exciting.
So for our listeners who may not be following who maybe this is your first time. If it is, welcome. We're so glad you're here. But our quotables is where we basically go through the plot points and pull out quotes that we love and or maybe hate, and just talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, go through the story, highlight some things, all that jazz.
All that jazz. But let's get into it. So before the final trial, chapters 51 through 53, this was a lot of stuff, and I probably missed a bunch.
That's
I
okay.
know I missed a bunch, but it's okay. A lot was
I added
happening.
some stuff in, so.
Perfect. Okay. So where we left off last time, Kai realizes that Paedyn is avoiding him, which Paedyn confirms here in her POV. And she says, but Kai is a very pressing problem, a very desirable distraction. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
So, and after this, she goes off and does her part for the resistance, which we know is stealing the key from Kit, which again, she feels so guilty, and I absolutely hate it. I hate
You
it.
hate that she feels guilty or hate that she's doing it?
I hate that she's doing it.
Oh, okay.
And never mind, we'll talk about that later. But
Okay.
we get this really, really cool parallel from the early chapters of this book when she's thieving regularly. So I really like that callback to where she stumbles and she does her whole routine and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so clumsy. And grabs the key super easily.
Which I think is funny. So, like, to bring it back, like, she stumbles into Kit intentionally versus like previously she has stumbled into Kit because she doesn't know how to dance. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
number one goes to show how much more comfortable she is, but number two, there was a pattern of behavior that she leaned into that really sold or really made this con be able to happen, which I thought was kind of funny.
Our girl's too smart. Okay. I guess it's a qualm. How does he not notice the key is gone? Like this entire night? Are they not like is Paedyn and the Resistance not worried that he would have found out between the end of the ball to the next day that the key is gone? Like this is one plot hole that I do not like.
Okay, so
And I don't
he
this could come later. Like the answer of this could come later. So if you can't tell me, that's okay.
no, so I this is and I think this is why I like that I have read this before, because I asked the exact same questions when I was reading it the first time. It's not just a key that's sitting in his pocket, it's a key on a key ring.
Mhm.
So if Kit is not paying attention and is just looking at the key ring, it's likely that he may not have noticed that one key off of his key ring was gone. Like if you think about it, he like even when they're showing the like when he's showing Paedyn um the cell in the jail or in the prison, like he has to search for the right key through the key
Mm,
ring. And when she's talking about it, she like slips it off the key ring versus just like taking the key out of his pocket. So if it was just the key, yes, 100%, I think that would have been a huge plot hole. But because it's on a key ring, I think
mm,
especially like Kai and Kit have a history of getting really drunk at balls. So
it's
like
true.
if he's going to bed drunk and waking up the next day with a hangover and like late and all those things, like I think there's definitely that like he may
Mm.
not have noticed that that specific key was missing.
Okay, that makes me feel a lot better. Thank you. Because I was gonna be really mad if that was just a huge plot hole, and yeah, but we're okay. We're okay. We don't have to be mad. I love that she like innocently is like, I could use a drink, and then Lenny just comes in and swoops in and is like, "Can I have this dance?" And we know the reason, but I thought it was cute nonetheless. Now, another thing, I didn't include this in the outline, but I feel like is the Imperials, are they actually dancing? Like I didn't know that was a thing. Because this is the
I don't
first
know
time I feel
why
like
they
we've
wouldn't be.
Because I thought they were more like guards. So I feel like they would.
I think they are, but I think yeah, that's actually a really good question. I think if I had to guess, like, because previously Lenny always escorted her there, but left her when she got close. But I'm wondering if that's more so she could have an entrance rather than they were not present at the ball. And I
Mm,
think like they may not have wanted to draw attention to the fact that they were like friends before this ball. So like now it kind of makes sense that they're friends since he's her guard.
yeah.
But I definitely understand what you're saying because that hasn't happened previously. So there's
It
not
was
really
like
a
a huge
precedent
red
there.
flag. But I liked it. I thought it was a cute moment. I like Lenny. And them like dancing and the handoff was just so smooth. So good. I love them. I like Lenny. I hope he doesn't die. I'm worried now about everyone I care about in this book.
Oh no.
Anyways, let's
We
keep moving
also
on.
we don't have any like Sarah J. Maas is known that like she doesn't really kill characters. like
We don't know
so
about Lauren Roberts.
right, that's what I'm saying is like this is her debut novel. We don't know what her
Oh
history is versus Rebecca Yarros who kills everybody.
no. Freaking Rebecca Yarros.
She is not known for her happily ever afters. So,
Which is
Lauren
proven.
Roberts, we're very interested.
We're watching you.
We are some of your biggest fans.
Oh, for sure.
We're cheering for you from the sidelines. But
Even
please
though
don't
you
kill
ripped
our
our heart
favorite
out.
characters.
She already did.
uh, I
Anyways,
know.
which I predicted. That's a whole. We're not going to get there yet. We're not there yet. Okay, let's keep going. So during the final ball, Paedyn also dances with Jax, which I was really cute. So cute. And gets passed around until finally getting to Kai.
I just want to let's take a second to talk about Jax for a second.
I love
He is
him.
the cutest and I love him so much and I don't think he gets the recognition that he deserves. But the fact that he was like dancing with her and he was like I just want you to know you look and then they were pulled away and then they get back and he's like you look beautiful and the line is he puffs out his chest like he's so proud and I'm like
He's
oh,
so
I just want to
cute.
pinch your cheeks.
He's the little brother I've always wanted.
I know.
Never
Oh,
got.
so good.
So cute. I love him. But when she finally gets to Kai, we get more amazing banter, which I'm always here for. And Paedyn thinks, but it's the way he's looking at me that suddenly makes swallowing seem like a struggle, breathing seem like a chore. I've never been looked at like it's a privilege to be in my presence, an honor to hold my gaze, a gift to get a glimpse of me, not until I met him. I made that my favorite quote because it's so cute.
I was kind of mad that that was your favorite quote because that was going to be mine, and then
You
you
should have.
stole it. Well,
Well,
you
that
got it first. It's fine. I had like three that I was picking between, so it's fine.
I did too. I could have chosen another one.
Well,
I
you
liked
you
yours
got there
too.
first. You did the outline first this time. You are going to get all the
Mm-hmm.
rewards.
The one time I did it first. But she also gets to see Kai's mask slip. It says, slips, splinters, shatters, leaving only a boy beholding a girl like she is worthy of his wanting. So again, like we get this image of his mask being finally taken off. So we get to see the real Kai, which I love because he's continues to put on masks the whole book. But so cute. But then Paedyn, like all of us, comes to the all too realization that he doesn't really know her, and if he did, he would have to kill her. So she continues to push him away, and she says, "If I pull him closer, it will only end in a dagger being plunged through my heart," which is such imagery here because she's been threatening to do the same thing to him this entire book. But
Yeah,
this one's real,
I know.
too real.
I just want to pull really quickly. So, as we all know, I am here for Kai. But earlier in this chapter, kind of like before she says this, I think it's in between the three quotes that you just said. We get a quote from Kai talking to Paedyn while they're dancing, and he says, quote, "Then why do you push me away?" Dude, I was crying with the knowledge that he's never asked anybody to stay before, and literally that the night before he asked her to stay, and then she did stay, and then this morning she ran away. He's so confused because he doesn't know why he feels this way about her. He does feel this way. She's kind of giving him mixed signals, which I do
Mm-hmm.
blame Paedyn for. Like, girl, you know you can't get close to this guy. What are you doing? Stop sending him mixed signals. Cut it off. Although I do have to say, I don't
Don't
know
cut
if
it
I
off.
could if I was Paedyn, so I totally understand. But also, girl, get it together.
Pull yourself
Anyways.
together.
He's finally gotten to where someone can bring his walls down. And when he finally shows her who he is, like the night before, or sorry, that morning, like he's showing her, like, I'm jealous. Like, this, not only that, but he showed her, like, she saw like his nightmare. She saw his vulnerability. She saw that he asked her to stay and he's never asked anybody else. She sees all of his masks slipping. Like, he finally shows her who he actually is. The first person that he's probably shown that to fully, because Kit doesn't even really see it unless he's super drunk. And even then, we don't know if Kit sees the full story.
Mm-hmm.
She just like walks away. So like this is not a, to me, this, and I know you said this was banter, and I think some parts of it are really cute, but I think it's also based in this, like, he's so confused and he doesn't know what's going on, and this, then why do you push me away? Like, the audiobook narrator Chase, like his voice cracked when he was saying this, and my heart cracked with it. I was like, oh, so he's literally putting everything on the line for her, and she's just like not having it, and it just, my heart is breaking for him too.
Mm, that's true. I feel really bad for him. Once
Apparently I have
he
a lot of thoughts about Kai.
I know. I love it though. So, with that, Paydon's thoughts again are causing her to panic because she's like stuck in that weird zone where she's like, I need to tell him, but like I do have these feelings for him, but I can't tell him because he doesn't know who I really am. So she goes before she like has another panic attack. She retreats to the courtyard to get some fresh air, but is met with an Imperial who says contestants are not allowed to leave. So this was like a really big red flag for me, but I knew the king was about to get involved somehow, some way. But Kai ends up stepping in and orders him to move, and we get this whole little lady thing, which was annoying and cute because Kai used it later. But ugh.
Well, I that's so funny. I do, the little lady was super annoying, but I also love that Kai stepped in and like saved her. And we get this quote from Paedyn thinking about what the Imperial's thinking, and he, the Imperial, knows just as well as I do that Kai's threats are never empty.
Mm-hmm. Foreshadowing, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, we get this kind of a little bit more background on what causes her panic with claustrophobia. So she says the crowded streets surrounding Loot pressed in on me constantly, making me feel caged and claustrophobic. So because of Loot, she has kind of gotten this claustrophobia. I think that makes it worse. So we know like people and feeling caged and claustrophobic, and feeling the world is caving in on her, which also relates to her thoughts. So we can see why that triggers her. So now the next two chapters are tense and wonderful, but we can't highlight it all. I wanted to quote everything in this whole chapters, but that's okay. So we learn here that Paedyn is jealous of all the other girls Kai was talking to all night. He gives her a little forget-me-not flower. So cute. It's raining, so we have that. I think you have a little note here.
Yeah, it's not really about it's raining. I just didn't know where else to put this.
Perfect.
Um, so it's like she's experiencing this claustrophobia, right? And we get this quote, "Good," he says quietly, "because I'm going to get very, very close to you." So right before this, he's checking in on her, making sure he's okay. And
So
then
cute.
he's giving her this like warning, and it comes as a statement rather than like a warning. It's not a "can I get close to you?" It's a "hey, I'm coming close to you because you're feeling better." But I wholeheartedly think that if Kai or if Paedyn had said, "No, I'm not ready yet," or "No, I don't want you to come closer," like he would have stepped away and would have still given her the space until like she was okay to like experience what he needed to tell her. But
Mhm.
who are we kidding? No one ever would say no to Kai coming very, very close to us.
Nope. Certainly not.
Definitely not me.
I love that Kai is your new book boyfriend.
Oh, he's still number two. Uh, we're gonna go number two.
Number two. Who's number one? Zayden?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Fair.
Every time.
Fair, fair, fair. All right. Well, speaking of Kai and book boyfriend, she is obsessed with his dimples, which we get throughout this entire book, and I love that it's a common theme. So it's so cute. And then she says his full name, Malachi.
Which you called out that that was gonna come back.
Yeah, I knew it would.
And then not only does she say his name, but he says her name. And we get, quote, "He says my name like it's sacred, like it's an oath he's swearing." Now, this wording is super interesting to me because I'm wondering, like, what kind of oath is he making here? What is he swearing to? Is this an oath that will be broken once he finds out about her betrayal with the resistance? What exactly is
Mm,
Kai giving an oath to? I'm interested.
interesting. Good point. Something to think on. I also love she says that she wishes she had the time to commit his laugh to memory. And then he says, I want to call you mine when they're going through the whole name thing. When she's like, no, you're a cocky bastard. Or, and then he's like, I want to call you mine. I'm like, okay. And then she says, now I understand exactly how affected Kai was by the lack of my touch during our game of archery and distraction. Because he does the same to her, which is,
Mm-hmm.
yes, yes, so cute. And then he asks her if he kisses her like he's always wanted to, if he should expect a dagger at his throat. And I love that she says, I guess you'll have to kiss me to find out. We get the little bantery answer, which I love. And then there's so much I wanted to talk about, but we have so much. But he realizes that she is choosing him, and he still thinks that he is all too wrong for her, which is so funny because if only he knew how wrong she was for him, like based on
Yeah.
ordinary and enforcer,
Yeah. Well, I love we get the quote, "Perhaps the beast can earn the beauty after all."
which is the opposite of what he said. You know, he was like, the beast can never have the beauty or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He's a mess. Then the Imperial rudely interrupts right before they kiss for a urgent, or air quotes, angry air quotes, interruption from the king. So the king obviously has spies, which is annoying. But the king is super pissed that he left to chase Paedyn and is not doing his job for quote his people, which is just the people in the castle right now. When Kai reminds him that the slummers are also his people, which I think is interesting because we haven't really heard much about Kai's point of view about the people, and we've only heard it from Kit and Paedyn. So I really like that we got a glimpse into what his ideology is about this whole thing. So love that. It gives me hope. And then Kit breaks up the fight, as he always does, between the king and Kai thinks about how Kit always wants the king to be proud of him and how he will do whatever it takes to earn his approval and his love, which I think is foreshadowing later for Kit's character, which makes me nervous.
What
So
do you think it's foreshadowing?
I think that it's foreshadowing that Kit will do whatever it takes to like make his father love him, even if that means not exploring his own thoughts about the people and just doing whatever his father wants. Or if his father dies, then becoming a very similar king. At least at first. I think Kit has some development left in him.
Okay.
Hopefully he won't turn into a villain. That would be really sad.
Yep.
Anyways.
You'll know when you know.
I know and I'll know.
Can I just
I
tell you,
really
it's like the hardest thing to be on this side. I cannot wait. You are gonna hate me if when we switch because I'm gonna have all the questions and you're just gonna all the time just say you'll know when you know, you'll know when you know.
because I will need something to make sure I don't spoil it because I'm really bad with spoilers. Sorry in advance, everyone.
We won't have
Truth.
to, listeners, you won't have to worry about it. I will have to worry about it, but
Yeah,
that's
I'll be good. I'll be good.
another
I'll be good.
another thing.
I'll be good. Because if I'm reading the same set of chapters that you are, it will be a lot easier.
That's true. Yeah, it's really not that hard
No.
when I'm reading the same set. You're right.
Especially if I read it soon. Anyways, unimportant right now. So, I think, especially foreshadowing that Kit will turn to a more like not dark side, but like to the bad side because he knows that Paedyn will betray him or betrayed him.
Okay.
So we get that later when I think I may have accidentally read ahead. So if this is in 61, I'm so sorry. But
How do you accidentally read ahead?
I accidentally, not accidentally read ahead.
Yeah, I could tell based on your face earlier. I was saying something and you made a face and I was like, "Oh, what does that mean?" How far did you read ahead?
No, I just read a few pages.
Okay.
But the king wants Kai to stay away from Paedyn, and Kai says, if I can't keep myself away, there is no way in hell he can, which I think is super cute. We love him.
Yep.
So here we go. The final trial begins. Chapters 54 through 55. I'm so glad I got this set of chapters. All right, so we're just going to go through really quickly some of the main things that happen and some quotes that I pulled out. But so they aren't drugged for this trial, and as Lenny told us, they're in the bowl. So we know it's super sandy, and the final trial is a maze where blooms are able to twist the hedges in new directions and alter, create new paths. This is giving Hunger Games and the game makers spinning and moving things, like in Catching Fire when they can move the cornucopia.
Okay. I did not
Anyways,
get that, but I
okay.
see where you're coming from.
It's a little different, but it was giving Hunger Games, which I've said a million times in this book, and I don't mean that in a bad way ever. But they must be the first contestant to make it to the center of the maze, and they must kill the person who awaits them here. And we get this quote: "The person there is deserving of this punishment. They've committed crimes against the kingdom and will pay for them with their life." This made me nervous, but I didn't think it was going to be Adina at this point. However, Kai smiles at Paedyn when they're about to start, a smile which is only for her, and she grins back before they go through the maze, which I think we got this really cute, like, last happy moment between them before everything happens. So I really like that.
Well,
Then,
it's
God,
it's interesting because constantly Kai is pointing out how the king only smiles at the queen with a smile only for her. And then we get
mm,
this Kai smiles at Paedyn, a smile only for her. So it's very interesting. I'm very interested to
cute.
see if that's foreshadowing because with what I know as of right now, I have not read Reckless yet. With what I know as of right now, it I don't foresee how it could be,
Mm.
but potentially.
Yeah. Interesting. So the maze shifts as Paedyn runs through it, and she says, "This is my nightmare, my most terrifying claustrophobic nightmare." It's really almost like the king knew that
Mm-hmm.
this is like something that really bothers her,
Yeah.
or but it definitely is unfortunate for her, and she's going through it, like having to fight her through her greatest fear, not only during the trial but the night before too. So she's like probably even more sensitive to it at this point.
Yep.
So Paedyn does get severely injured from the thorns and jagged branches on her foot. And when she tears off her tank to wrap around her foot, she thinks this: Adina would be both fascinated and disgusted by how perfectly the colors match. This is where I texted Becca that I think Adina is going to be the prisoner.
This is where you texted this.
I
That's
read
so
that.
funny.
I have a little highlight in my Kindle and I said, this is Adina's going to be the prisoner.
That's so funny that you didn't think that earlier when the king was like the criminal deserves to be there.
I I think I must have had like an original thought because this was like this quote here was confirming it for me. Like I felt
Okay.
it in my bones. So I don't it probably was like but then this one was like, why are we talking about Adina? So first off, it was very obvious to me that it was going to be Adina here
Okay.
because we hadn't really talked about Adina since the dress.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned her, she mentioned her once about the slits being up at the ball, how she convinced Adina. That was the last time we really thought about Adina. So this felt very intentional. And I think we were supposed to think about her so that the death was going to be even more impactful.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't mind that I was right. So I
Good
I
job.
actually I'm happy that I was right, but I'm very sad I was right.
Yeah.
But
No, I think all that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, it seemed too purposeful and like we had to be reminded that Adina not only existed, but the hint with the blood burgundy color, which when I was listening to the audiobook after I wrote this outline, we get a parallel about that with Andy and Kai's fight, where she has burgundy and the blood matches her burgundy hair.
Hmm.
Interesting. But as the walls of the maze threaten to crush Paedyn, she thinks that it is time, like her time to die. It's her time because she is being overtaken by the panic and she's worried that these walls will only fit one contestant. And then she's right. And as she's thinking this, she hears, I was worried I wasn't going to get to kill you before these trials ended. I knew exactly who it was. I knew exactly that it was Blair. I didn't even have to turn the page, I just knew it.
Yep.
That's all
So
I have to say because I'm
you
so
can't.
glad you got these.
Okay, so due to the nature of these chapters, and Lauren switches between Kai and Paedon's perspective so much, I'm going to be going out of order of the chapters slightly to finish the storylines for each character until they merge. So we technically are going to be starting with chapter 57, continuing the part of Paedon and Blair, and we'll go back to 56 once we finish that part.
Cool.
Okay, so back to Paedon and Blair. Let's just all take a moment to enjoy Paedon's digs at Blair. I think what's so interesting to me here is I know we probably should have caught this or talked about this earlier, but Paedon is a quote psychic as her power, but her wit is really one of her best weapons, which is
Mm-hmm.
also like a mind power, right?
Yep.
So, like in trials that are meant to showcase the elite powers that obviously Paedon is at a disadvantage, right? But I think while she may not be showcasing her powers, she is showcasing her abilities, which is kind of a cool way that Lauren Roberts makes her the overcomer that we know and love as Paedon Gray.
Mm.
And so back to her and Blair, she straight up calls out that Blair wants the princes but can't have them. And not only that she can't get them, but that she's been rejected over and over and over. Pay digs in even more to say, quote, tell me, what's it like being rejected over and over? And of course, Blair doesn't let her finish. But what a good, like, I have no idea what it's like to be rejected because they haven't rejected me, but they reject you. So what's
Both
that
ways.
like?
And Blair knows that too.
Yep. So once Paedyn messes with Blair's brain, she ends up being able to physically damage her as well and get away. Blair needs to get her emotions under control here because she would have won if she had just stayed in control. She needs one of Kai's masks because he has more than enough to spare, but she needs one of them to get her emotions under control. So Paedyn gets away only to be back to running the maze, and she runs and finally sees her victory.
I really like that she uses her father's ring to temporarily knock out Blair. Like, we get that imagery of, like, we've seen her ring, and that's a big part of her in the first chapters, and we get to see it used here. But I just don't understand why she doesn't kill her here. She had
I
the
don't think
opportunity.
she I don't think she would have been able to without just like pummeling her to death.
Yeah, but I would have. I hate Blair. Like, she should hate her enough to, like, more, like, I don't know. I needed her to get rid of her.
You wanted justice for Blair
I did. I
or
wanted,
against Blair.
yeah, yeah. Especially once I knew what she did to Adina later. But
Yeah. Yeah. I think that goes back to like Paedyn doesn't kill just to kill. I think that shows a lot about her character.
I wish she would. But
I know.
anyways.
At the same time that Paedyn is running, Kai is also running on the other side of the maze, getting just as lost. So much so that we get this quote, a powerless quote, that says, quote, "I've never felt so powerless, so unable to do anything to stop this impending doom." So I have a question, Keri, because I know I told you to focus on powerless quotes and I did not as much. So have all of our powerless quotes come from Paedyn up to this point, or have they all come from Kai, or have they come from different characters?
I think it's both Paedyn and
Okay.
Kai. It hasn't been anyone outside of them, though.
Okay, so it's just okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Because I know
it's definitely both.
Reckless has only ever been said by Paedyn about Kit so far.
Ooh.
So I don't know if that
Are we gonna get Kit's POV and Reckless? Well, no one we know. And I said
I
we because you don't know yet, right?
well, I do know because I looked at the chapters.
Never mind. I'll know when I know.
um,
Never mind.
but anyways, I couldn't remember if Powerless. For some reason, I thought Powerless was only said by Kai, but it could have been by Paedyn. I think it was Paedyn and Kai. Now that I'm
I think it
thinking
was
about it,
Paedyn early, and then it was mostly Kai the rest of the book.
yeah.
So
Okay.
that's probably.
Either way, something very interesting. Also, we did, as of this recording, we did get the third book's title, which is going to be Fearless, which comes out in April 2025. We're very excited about it. That means we have to go back and look at all the
I
Fearless
know.
quotes too.
I was so mad. I
So
was like, come on, Lauren. We needed
we,
to pay attention to Fearless, too.
but I love Powerless, Reckless, Fearless. Like, oh, so good.
Cute.
Amazing. Okay. So anyways, back to Kai. He's running through the maze, and finally he comes up to another contestant who is Andy, who is in her jaguar form and is lost to her ability. So we're going to talk more about her ability in the magical moments section, so I didn't go too much into it here. But I did want to note that this was kind of sad reading this through because we've so enjoyed getting to know Andy as a character, and we really wanted her and Paedyn to be friends because Andy is an old friend of Kai's and there's not really any jealousy there. And we just really wanted that friendship to happen.
Mm.
And to be rooting against her because we're rooting for Kai created a cognitive dissonance for me that I was not prepared for and was not expecting. And I didn't love it. Now, I think that's kind of the point, right? I think we aren't supposed to love that Kai is fighting Andy because we have liked Andy so much. And I think Kai doesn't love it. Kai doesn't really want to hurt her. He's thinking through it the whole time, but it was just it made me feel kind of icky reading through it because like I was rooting for them both, not rooting against one or the other.
Yeah. And I like that he like reminds himself that she's family,
Mm-hmm.
which I think
Yeah.
is cute.
Yeah.
Word of the day. Cute.
Cute. So Kai uses both her powers, meaning Andy's power, and Jax's power to defeat her, kind of. She flies up and hits the cage and then switches into the jaguar form and then like just retreats. Like she doesn't really like there's no like pinning or anything like that.
Mhm.
Then he gets access to the bloom power. He's thrilled and he starts tearing away at the hedges that make up the maze and makes a path right to the center of the maze. So now we have Paedyn and Kai's perspectives colliding in chapter 58.
I'm not ready.
So we're not to chapter 59 yet. We'll get there.
I'm just not ready.
Actually, this is the only thing I have from chapter 58 is this one sentence.
Oh.
So the first thing that Kai sees when he gets to the center of the circle is Paedyn, and his eyes lock on her right away, but her eyes are focused on the quote criminal at the center of the maze, which is Adina. Okay, so I have tissues right here because this chapter was so hard to read. And there were definitely tears the first time I read it. There were definitely tears the second time I read it. There were definitely tears as I was writing this outline. So, like, please give me grace as I'm processing through this because there may be tears again and we are unsure.
We are unsure.
We are
I'm gonna
unwell
cry
and
again.
unsure.
We are unwell. Lauren Roberts made us unwell,
Yes.
which just
So,
speaks to her writing.
yes.
Like, that she
Incredible.
can make us that attached. Like, 10 out of
Yeah.
10.
Okay, so Paedyn gets to the center of the maze and is so confused why Adina is there. And Adina has obviously been tied up and tortured because she's bleeding. Her hands are tied. She can't even walk to Paedyn because her feet are tied up. And Adina is apologizing to Paedyn. And we never get to hear what her apology is or why she's apologizing because Blair comes out of nowhere and just kills Adina.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up cold blood kills Adina. Now, I would love to know where this random branch came from that Blair used because
Where was that when Paedyn was fighting Blair?
right, like they're in a maze controlled by blooms. Where did it come from?
It
Unless she
must have
just
been,
tore.
yeah, like she either probably tore it or like when Kai was opening, tearing through the maze using the bloom power.
That's true. I didn't even think about that.
Because we don't know
Okay.
where his brain is. His brain is like right on
That's true.
Paedyn.
Okay. So I've said this before and I'll say it again. Adina is the best friend that we all need in our lives. She loved Paedyn. She worried over Paedyn. She kept Paedyn's secret. She made the fort a home. She was Paedyn's partner in crime. She loved sticky buns. She loved shiny fabric and sewing. She made the castle more homey when she got there. She rejoiced over Paedyn's successes, plotted over her budding romance with Kai, and she turned Paedyn into the silver savior. She supported Paedyn in every way. And we get this quote from Paedyn saying, "She was my light." Ugh.
This is not okay.
No, it's not.
Real quick. So when Adina is apologizing, I guess you probably can't answer this, but do we learn why she's apologizing later? Never? Well, at
I don't
least
think so.
unless we get it in Reckless or Fearless.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I wonder if she's apologizing for the dresses or the breaking her heart. I don't
We
know.
may get it in Powerful.
That's true, because neither of us have read that. I'm
Mhm.
definitely going to be buying that probably today and reading it. Not today, because I want to finish Powerless first.
Yes, let's finish Powerless first.
Anyways, I pulled out this quote because Paydon's thinking, this isn't right, this can't be right, which was exactly my thoughts. Like, I was like, no, 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 I didn't want to be right. This can't be right. Like, she's not a criminal. And Paedon thinks she smiles the kind of sad smile one would think the sun does when setting, which is, like you said, she was my light. And then now the light is setting. Just so sad.
So sad. And then Paedon to have to watch her friend get hurt to the point where she was going to die is just devastating beyond belief. So we get this quote: "The sound of screaming fills my ears. I think it might be coming from me." She crumples. And I was listening to the audiobook for this chapter, and when Paedon starts screaming for help, like I was pulling into the drive-thru to get dinner and I had to pull over so I wasn't like tearing up in the drive-thru because the narrator just did such a good job like screaming for help, like and like
Yes.
portraying that emotion. And Adina then makes Paedon promise to wear the vest that she made her, and then Adina leaves, and we get quote, "Please don't leave me, A. You're all I have left." Which, ugh,
It's too sad. And then she says she's the only person who knows me, and death is too dark for Adina.
so sad.
Oh, I didn't see that you put that there too.
That's okay. So we get this beautiful parallel here between Paedon and Kai, though. So Paedon thinks about Adina. I was the one meant to die in these trials, not her, anyone but her. Versus Kai in his dream, who thought about Paedon. I never wanted her blood on my hands, never hers. So we get this, like, as we're thinking through this, Paedon loved Adina. She was all she had left. She was her best friend. She'd known each other forever. And her heart is breaking watching Adina die. And Kai is feeling a very similar, obviously more romantic way about Paedon, but it just goes to show the depth of Kai's feelings for Paedon versus what we're like meant to believe, you know?
Mhm.
So speaking of Kai, he's just standing there watching Paedon break down with no idea how to help. And we get, quote, "Hurt is what I know how to do. Not how I know. No. Hurt is what I know how to do, not know how to help."
I highlighted this too. I was like, oh, guy.
Right. But he's so confused why Adina is at the center of the circle because it was clearly stated that the person at the center of the circle was deserving of death. And his wheels are spinning as to why Adina was here.
Mm-hmm. And then we get this quote, she was no prisoner of mine, and she certainly was no criminal worthy of this death.
Yep. So his wheels are spinning too.
Mm-hmm.
So then the rest of the contestants show up to the center of the circle, and Kai realizes the trial is over. But then he realizes that the noise of the crowd has turned to horror instead of cheers because of the resistance. He glances over to his family, and we get, quote, "They are being smothered by silencers, and then so am I." And that's the end of chapter 60.
Ugh. Okay, here's my prediction. I think the resistance is going to end up being bad because they didn't tell them about these silencers being used.
Didn't tell who.
Paedon.
Yeah, but I don't think she's at a point where she would know that information.
I'm just saying. It seems like it's getting a little more violent than originally said. And I'm not okay with it.
This is true.
Also, I think you did a really good job of honoring Adina, so I don't think we need to do that.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks.
I think you did. You covered everything she loved, and that was really cute. I like
Thanks.
it. 10 out of 10.
Well, in that case, y'all are going to hear me talk even more because we're moving on to our magical moments. So, we actually got a lot of interesting information. So we get a new power here, which is bloom, and they can
Mhm.
basically control the flowers. So I think this makes so much sense because, um, like the gardens are so beautiful at the castle. I'm sure like that's the work of blooms.
Oh yeah.
We also learn more about mute. So I went back and did a deep dive about mute because we got a ton of information about it super early and I didn't want to highlight it because I didn't want to throw anything away. But now that we know it comes to fruition, um it we're going to talk about it. So we have mute, which is a material created by silencers before the purging. So as a reminder, we have two kind of big events in the history of Ilya right now. We have the plague, which is the sickness that went through Ilya, which created the elites and the ordinaries. And then we have the purging, which is a self-inflicted event by the king who, when he got rid of all the ordinaries and all of the fatal powers. So remember that silencers, mind readers, and controllers. Now, for those of you who are not looking at me right now, and for Keri, you can vouch for me. I pulled all of that out of my butt just
I
then because it's
know.
not on
That
our
was
outline.
impressive.
So if that's not totally accurate, please let me know, and I will gladly adjust my wording here. Anyways, okay. So back to mute. So mute is the material created by silencers before the purging. So remember, silencers are not a thing except for the one, maybe two that are in the king's court that are still, quote, loyal. So mute is very rare. So the king has needed to hoard all of it, which is a little convenient.
Mm-hmm.
So the scholars use transfers, which is another ability that we haven't talked about yet. And their ability is to place power into objects. So the transfers used the silencer's powers and transferred it into this material, which is mute now. So basically, mute smothers the power of anybody who's within a container made by this mute power. So we get the cell blocks in the prison, we get the bowl arena, all of those things. So
Mm-hmm.
over the decades, mute has been used to craft cells, cuffs, and shields around the stands within the bowl arena. So basically, like I said, if you're within a structure constructed of mute, you can't use your powers, which is very convenient for the resistance showing up at these trials here today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all about mute. We're going to move to Andy's power, which we've talked about a little bit before, but Andy's power is shape shifting. And what's
Mm-hmm.
interesting here that we learn is Andy gets lost in her animal abilities sometimes. And we got two animals that she can shift into, which is a jaguar and an eagle. And she, like I said, can get lost in her animal form, but so can Kai. And I wanted to pull these quotes because we get it multiple times in this section that Kai is a jaguar, but we get quote, keep your head, keep your head, keep your head. Actually, we get that twice from
Mm-hmm.
Kai
We
within
do.
like on it's like on one page, we get it twice. And then we get quote, I am Kai Azar, prince and future enforcer of Ilya. I am Kai Azar, prince and future enforcer of Ilya. So he's like constantly like reminding himself, grounding himself in his truth so he doesn't lose his head.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like crazy to me. Also, crazy that when they were kids, Andy would just be lost to her animal form for days.
Yeah, and she like
It's
wouldn't
like
remember anything, which is crazy.
crazy.
I feel so bad for her. I can't imagine like waking up as a kid and not knowing what happened for days.
I know. Okay, and then lastly, we get that Kai's power has a distance limit. Now we've seen this before with the healers when he was trying to heal Jax in the in the first trials. But I really want to know what the limit is here because blooms were close to him the whole time. I want to know specifically in feet, what is the distance that they have to be away from him so that he cannot get their power?
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting to me because I imagine like the arena is like the Roman Colosseum, which is
Yeah.
not that big. Like
No.
now, yes, the structure itself is big, but the center of it theoretically is not that big. I don't really know how big, but okay, let's talk about a football arena then, maybe. Like, a football arena is 100 yards long. Obviously, I know there's more than just the football like field, but it's not that long, and it's kind of like it's an oval shaped, so you're closer to somebody on the sides than you would be like from the length. So I just feel like that bloom power, not being able to access that is just like too convenient,
Mm-hmm.
because from like based on what Jax was saying, like when Jax was hurt and Kai was looking for the healer power, he was running towards them and he didn't get that close to the stands before being able to have a healer power. So
Yeah.
it's just interesting. Like, I really want to know in feet what the distance away is that Kai can get a power. So
I hope we learn about that in Reckless.
I know, me too.
Well, maybe not feet, but like a distance, like anything to help.
I also wonder if it has to deal with the strength of the power
Mm.
from the person. So, like, if the king is a stronger brawny than, say, Braxton, can Kai be further away from the king and still access his power versus Braxton? Maybe
Probably.
part of Kai's training was broadening that distance. So maybe he started and could only do it if someone was 5 feet away. Now he can do it with somebody who's 30 feet away. Like, we don't really know. Maybe it's the strength of the power. So, like, maybe Brawnies are a stronger power than Tellies. So he can be further away from a Brawny and get that power versus he has to be pretty close to Blair to get that power.
Mm.
So I have a lot of questions there that I'm just unsure about. I'm unsure and unwell. That's going to be our new thing. But um, yeah, I have lots of questions. All right. Well, that's the end of our magical moments today. So thank you so much for listening to us. If you like
Yes.
today's episode, please rate and review us wherever you listen and give us 5 stars. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you're notified for any new episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the best thing you can do is share us with your friends. Obviously, Reckless came out last week. We're super excited. We're going to be finishing Powerless next week and then moving right on. So if you have friends who are reading Powerless right now and then moving on to Reckless, share us with them. We'd love to chat and build some community there.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of community, make sure to check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Tomes and Tropes Pod. Or if you have thoughts about this episode or this book, email us at tomesandtropespod@gmail.com. We have not read Reckless at this time.
Nope.
So, and I will not be reading it we'll be reading it just like we are doing Powerless. So, no spoilers for me. If you have something to do with Reckless and you want to talk to Becca about it, make sure you put spoilers for Reckless.
Yes.
We don't want spoilers.
No, we don't.
But we'd love to hear your thoughts on Powerless so far, and we'll see you next week when we finish the book.
Stay curious and keep reading. Bye.
Bye.